Right. Okay. Umoya ulight, umoya ubright. It's another Tuesday in Africa. Therefore, it is Sahel Thursdays. Sahel Tuesdays. It's so hard to get used to Sahel Tuesdays. Welcome to everybody, whether you're watching from YouTube, from Twitter, from Facebook. It's so nice to have you. Thank you for all the feedback we're getting about this session. I know you guys are really enjoying it and finding it very informative. As usual, I'm not alone. We are with our mother, Mom Dr. Khanyisile Litchfield Tshabalala. Good evening, Mom.
Hi, Moya. Emerging Alkebulan. I am joining once again from the famous Wakaduku.
Wow.
Oh, so nice, so
Wow.
nice.
So it's good to hear that.
Oladele.
Yeah, greetings. I wish I could join my sister there, but you know what? Get all the sun for us. Get all the melanin. They're basically the sunshine for us, my sister, man. Anyway, greetings everybody. Welcome to another session on the Sahel Tuesday. Maya, we're welcome. Well, thank you for joining us. Emerging Akebelen, thank you for joining us. It's going to be another very informative session. So yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for joining us.
And you know what's so interesting about today is that Mom Kanye is not alone, actually. She is got an interpreter with her. So it's Marco. I don't know if I can get him on the screen. I'm trying to see if this will work. There he is in the corner there. Hi, Marco. Welcome to the show.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear you. Thank you so much. Marco's here to translate for us today, so I can't believe this. But yeah, that's how we roll now, guys. We've got an entire translator. So let me just get out of this Mamkani screen. Okay, cool. So today's topic, we are talking about military defense. We're talking about the importance of it and why should we have it and how much Africa has invested in the military. I mean, as we can see in the Sahel region, it was a military coup. So what does that actually mean? So I'm going to hand over to Mam Kanye and then obviously to Ola as we unpack why should a country have a defense force, Mam Kanye?
I like today's topic because it almost is a continuation from last week. If what defines a nation is territorial integrity, meaning you have a right to your territory, but it's not just the right that other people shouldn't attack you. It is when they do attack you, you can defend it. That's why you need a defense force. And if you have territorial integrity, then you have national sovereignty, meaning no one can take your nation for granted. Like a whole 1.7 billion people in Africa are taken for granted, but Belgium, the size of Soweto, is not taken for granted because they have military prowess. So that's national sovereignty. And those two things give us self-determination. So I mean, you can have the best trained teachers, the best trained nurses, the best functioning hospitals. You can have the best whatever. If you cannot defend that best, it can be destroyed in a day. And I mean, war is destructive. I'm sure we have seen pictures of countries that are at war. So that's why we need a defense force. And it is never to call it on citizens because we have police that are dysfunctional like ours in South Africa. So you call the defense force in. No, the defense force is there for external aggression. It is not to keep internal stability and order. That's the job of the police. Thank you, Ntsiki.
Yeah, my opening shorts is basically us doing some research on this topic about military. It amazed me, because I never thought about it, that my country, Nigeria, only invests 2.4 billion in military. Its military capability, basically. India, who's a nuclear nation, invests about 80 billion in military. And you can imagine the US invests 877 billion. 870, just think about it, 877 billion a year on its military capability with over 700 military bases all over the world. Okay, China invests about 272 billion or 292 for China, which is coming up. But Africa collectively, within the whole continent of Africa, with 1.4 billion people, we invest 20 billion. 20 billion, that's it. With Nigeria, 2.4 billion. I don't know about the other countries, if we break it down, but if the whole of continent of Africa, like Mama Kanye said, if we're trying to defend 1.4 billion people and your military budget is just 20 billion. So basically, in a nutshell, we're up against it. And I'm going to say this. When we're talking about military, it's about the industrial war complex. The West has built this military capability in order for it to control the world. That's basically why it built this. So basically, they create the problems, they find solutions so they can sell ammunition to the world. But I'm going to let my sister, Mama Khanyisile, break this a lot more down because that's her field. But I just have to put those bits into perspective.
Before we go to you, Mama Kanye, Marco, do you mind translating what we've just said in this first segment, and then I'll hand over to Mama Kanye?
So can you hear me?
Yes, there we go.
Okay. I had a little issue with my phone, so I was not able to get everything that needed to translate it. So if you can just make a little summarize, that would be great.
You know, you guys are in the
I also think that Marco should be in a separate room.
Yes, because we're getting feedback.
Yes. Yes, he's gone. He's gonna be in a separate room.
Better.
Yeah. So I think that the summary for Marco, let me just do it in 3 sentences so we can move on. Marco, it's your phone that has got that noise.
So I have to let me, you know what? Just continue with the podcast. I will find a better spot and I will join you back.
All right. Thank you. So
Yes, you have to be
Oladele,
far away from Mam Kanye. There must be a big space between you guys.
yes, Marco, there must be space between us, ne? Don't be close. Okay, I think the noise has quietened down. So let me give you 3 sentences from the first segment, Marco. We went through the necessity of having a defense force, that it does not help to have the best social services, the best hospitals, the best education, the best infrastructure, the best everything. If you cannot defend it from an invasion, then you don't have self-determination. Then you are not free as a people. Then you don't have territorial integrity, meaning you cannot defend your own territory. And then Oladele read statistics, which I think when I finish the summary, he should go over them again because it's important for French-speaking Africans to hear them. So you can summarize mine quickly, and then Oladele will, when I finish in 3 sentences, just go over the statistics again.
Okay, Marco will get him back on again. But how wild is it that only 20 billion is spent on military in the whole of Africa? So what does that speak? Does that speak to Africans being a peace-loving community who don't like war, or does it speak to the fact that Africans are the only people on the battleground who don't realize that they're at war?
I think I'll go first. And I'm going to be very crude. I apologize up front. It speaks to stupidity. You cannot have a house, Ntsiki, that is just open for anyone to come in and take whatever they want because you can't defend it, then sell your house. If Africa is not interested in having firmed up defense forces so we can protect this continent, then let's call the colonizers back. Why did we fight and so many people died fighting against colonialism? And it's still ongoing because we have neo-colonialism. And then we have weak defense forces that cannot even protect our territory. So it speaks to stupidity. And hear me, it is not the fault of the defense force. It is the fault of the president, his cabinet, and those parliamentarians, because they are the ones who take the decision. Two, it speaks to a colonized people. Do you know in former French colonies, the way the French commands after the so-called independence, they command the army, they even determine promotions. Can you believe that? So how can you tell me these are the people who are going to protect us against the former colonizer when the former colonizer himself is so enmeshed in that defense force that he even determines who gets promoted? Why do we think the Sahel went on the coup and removed all those soldiers who are willing to be the handmaidens of France? So for me, it speaks to those two things, Ntsiki. Stupidity, but it also speaks to the people who are still colonized. Because we are the only continent in the world which is told, spend less on defense, spend on your social services. Even our citizens join that stupidity from their ignorance. Oh no, why are you spending so much on defense but the hospital is falling apart? Let's build up the hospital and have the best hospital and see the American Marines bomb it at 9 o'clock in the morning after entering that country at 8:10. And by 9:30, they've taken a whole city. So that would be my response, Ntsiki.
Ola, you gonna jump in there?
Yeah, my thoughts about this once we thought about the topic, it's annoying. I don't know what other words to say. It's annoying because since colonialism left Africa, like Mama Khanyisile said, they train our soldiers. They come to the Nigerians. They come to Sandhurst. They go to all these places. Basically, they come, they train, they infiltrate. Basically, we have no independence. So, in terms of basically what we're doing, they are privy to every strategic. What's the word I'm looking for? You know, they know the ins and outs strategically of every country they're in, because basically they're in there, they're embedded in the system. And the sad thing about this whole thing is that our military is trained to be a gatekeeper for the white people. So they're not even loyal to their own people. And this is the kind of mindset that we have. This is how bad this is. That's basically why they can't do anything. We're talking about Boko Haram in Nigeria right now. Okay, we know how the conflict started because it was basically they have to create problems to find solutions. They will come in, they basically get you guys to fight against each other and then become the solution. And they'll come in, and we know why they're there, because of the resources. But and for us not be able to defend that, they've been trying to fight Boko Haram for the last 10, 11 years. You know, I've had videos where the citizens. This was a video last week where some people in these areas are saying that they have white people coming in at night with helicopters. These people are not black people. And this is happening in Nigeria, and this happens all over Africa. So, and we can't defend nothing because we're in bed with them. So, when we're talking about military capabilities, no wonder why we can't defend ourselves, because we're complicit. We're part of the problem. Okay, I'll leave it there for now.
Shucks. Okay, so as we said tonight, we are exploring defense forces for countries and the importance of it. I don't know if Marco, you've gotten enough information to translate to our French audience some of the stuff that we've unpacked at the moment.
Yes, I do have enough information to make a quick summarize. So, à tous nos téléspectateurs, à tous ceux qui nous suivent, les francophones, la problématique aujourd'hui de Tuesday Sahel se porte sur le fait que la plupart de nos pays aujourd'hui sont formés par les anciens colonisateurs. Ce qui fait que nous avons l'impression que éventuellement la police ou l'armée n'est pas nécessairement au service des populations et du pays, mais font office de bras armés justement pour le colon ou les anciens colonisateurs pour pouvoir imposer aux peuples africains leur vision qui est éventuellement en mesure de pouvoir, ou du moins quel leader est en mesure de pouvoir diriger en fonction de leurs meilleurs intérêts. Donc, voilà à peu près de façon résumée la problématique qui est exposée aujourd'hui. I'm done.
Thank you, Marco. So, Mamkani, I mean, I know you've mentioned this before in one of our earlier sessions when we're speaking about all the military air bases that America has got all over Africa. Do you want to unpack that for us again properly so we understand why would foreign countries have military bases on our lands?
Thank you, Ntsiki. Can we also, Marco, please mute if you are not the one talking. Ne? I know you're joining us for the first time. That's our rule. We mute each time we finish talking. And thank you for being here. I won't talk long because I'll talk and stop so he translates because it becomes too much for the translator if we speak for long. The fact that we have foreign military bases on our soil, again, it talks of stupidity. It talks of a people who are not free. And by the way, I am not only lambasting our leaders on that. They are not the only ones responsible. As citizens too, we vote for those parties which allow those military bases on our soil. So we are equally stupid, just like the leaders that we think we are criticizing. We are just like them. If you have a foreign military base on your soil, even your neighbor is not safe because a foreign military base will always be used as a rear base to attack the next country, which is not in line with Western interests. I mean, we saw that with Kuwait when they attacked Iraq, the first Desert Storm. We saw it with Pakistan when they invaded Afghanistan. We are seeing it with Niger, with Mali, with Burkina Faso. Where do you think these weapons that these, I don't know, the terrorists, that's the word I'm looking for. Where do you think these weapons that the terrorists have, how do you think they cross into their hands? Because there are military bases that are surrounding these three countries. These three countries have thrown out the military bases. They haven't been completely thrown out in some of these other countries. So, you know, you can dwindle to whatever state of selling out as a president of a country and as a parliament. But to the state of allowing a foreign military base, I have no respect for you. You have not only sold out your people, you've sold your soul. You are actually... I think I'll leave it there for translation's sake.
Oh, unmute, Marco. Unmute.
Can you hear me now? Sorry, this is my first time, so I'm not used to it. Alors, pour résumer les propos du docteur, elle nous fait comprendre que avoir une base militaire dans un pays africain est dans quelques lieux un non-sens. Un non-sens est que, au-delà du fait que certains leaders valident cela, on ne doit pas nécessairement mettre le propre que sur les leaders. Il y a aussi des gens de la population africaine qui aussi, quelque part, encouragent le fait que ces bases-là soient implémentées un peu partout sur le continent africain. Dans la deuxième partie aussi, elle a fait état de comment on appelle ça, des résultats qu'on a eus finalement au cours de l'histoire vis-à-vis de ces bases-là. Elle a pris l'exemple du Pakistan, elle a pris l'exemple de l'Irak, du Niger, même du Burkina Faso et d'autres pays africains aussi où voilà, il y avait des bases militaires qui étaient implémentées. Et elle a fait état du fait que la plupart du temps, ces bases-là servaient de base arrière pour contrer plus ou moins les États qui n'allaient pas dans le sens de la direction, dans le sens de la direction des Occidentaux. Et aussi, elle a fait état du fait que très souvent, ces bases-là servaient à aussi fournir ressources, équipements et autres des factions terroristes qui pouvaient y avoir autour. I'm done.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, my thoughts on this is we've just summarized that Africa spends 20 billion on its defense force collectively all over Africa. You know, that's 20 billion. America spends annually about 877 billion. Plus they have 700 bases, probably about 500 in Africa, over 500, and they have about 700 all over the world. Okay, so just think of those figures. How can Africa, a collective Africa that spends 20 billion, defend itself against the America that spends over 877 billion in a year? You know, it's just like David and Goliath. We have no chance. So just think about it. And we have all these things going on in Africa. Imagine this is basically why they are continued. That's why they continue to oppress us, because we haven't got a chance. We haven't got a cat and have a chance to do anything about it. And this is what these three countries are doing. So you know what? We need to build a force that's going to stand up, even though it's difficult. But basically, they're sowing a seed. And I leave it there and let Marco into brief that.
I've been out of the panel for a few minutes, but I will be able to translate the core of what you were saying. Pour faire un résumé de ce que le docteur Muir disait, il est important pour les populations et les États africains de créer une sorte de fédération armée afin de pouvoir se débarrasser justement de la présence d'armées étrangères. Comme il le dit, cela ne fait aucun sens qu'on ait des armées étrangères occidentaux sur notre continent. Et il a insisté justement à la fin de sa présentation. Je suis désolé pour le fait que je ne pourrais pas tout résumer vu que j'étais hors du panel, mais sur la fin de sa présentation, il a insisté sur le fait de créer une fédération de toutes les forces. Ça ne sera pas nécessairement facile dès le début, mais il est important que voilà, nous puissions déjà commencer à implémenter cette idée-là et petit à petit la mettre en place afin de pouvoir être libérés totalement du joug impérialiste.
Thank you, Marco. So there's this thing called NATO, and it's basically an alliance of defense forces of the West and the Europeans. And what is, do we have a version of NATO, or are the Westerners and the Americans the only ones who are serious about defense?
So I think before I come into it, what a brilliant question, Ntsiki. Before I come into it, Marco, I'm not sure if I heard the 20 billion that Africa spends collectively on defense and the 800, how much Oladele, the America. If you can just give those two stats, please. It's important for them to.
Okay, so America spends, there's an echo there. okay, America spends America spends 877 billion a year on the military on the defense budget, while Africa spends 20 billion, of which Nigeria spends 2.4 billion a year, and I'll say Ethiopia spends 1 billion a year. So yeah, just comparatively, there's it's just there's no comparison if you want to interpret that. Yeah.
Donc en termes de dépenses militaires, l'exemple qui a été pris sur les États-Unis, on parle d'à peu près 800 milliards de dollars par an. L'Afrique, elle, est à 21 milliards de dollars par an. Et lorsqu'on prend le Nigeria, nous avons approximativement 2 milliards de dollars. Et pour le cas de l'Éthiopie, si je ne me trompe pas, nous sommes à 1 milliard de dollars. Ce qui fait que voilà, il y a en termes de dépenses relatives à la défense, la balance n'est pas respectée. Donc, pas nécessairement respectée, mais plutôt il n'y a pas de comparaison à faire. C'est vraiment le gap est énorme.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ntsiki, for that question. What a brilliant question. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is what NATO stands for, is a military pact, actually. When we say something is a military pact or a defense pact, it says if you attack America, you are attacking all the other NATO members. If you attack Poland, you are attacking all the other NATO members, including America. So traditionally, NATO was limited to Western Europe, which is predominantly our colonizers at Germany, Belgium, etc. And then America, Australia, New Zealand. With the fall of the Soviet Union and the fall of communism, NATO has been absorbing country after country. This is where the war of Ukraine and Russia come in. I don't call it an invasion of Ukraine by Russia. I call it a war of defense by Russia, because NATO wants Ukraine to be a member of NATO, meaning they can put nuclear weapons at the doorstep of Russia. They can put weapons pointing at Russia. The same thing I'm talking about military bases. They can have their military bases right on Russia's doorstep. But they refused when Cuba did that during communism. When Cuba wanted to put the arsenals of USSR on Cuban soil, it led to almost a nuclear war because America said no. They call it the Bay of Pigs incident. So I think I'll stop there and let Marco translate. I'm not done with the point, but I don't want her to lose what I'm saying.
Unmute, Marco. Unmute.
Can you hear me now? Okay. So, donc, lorsque nous parlons de l'OTAN, voilà le traité atlantique, le concept de l'OTAN est simple. Celui qui touche aux États-Unis touche aux autres pays de l'OTAN. Celui qui touche à la France touche aux autres pays de l'OTAN et vice-versa. C'est comme ça que voici le concept intrinsèque de ce que peut représenter l'OTAN. Et le fait que c'est pour ça que quelque part, elle soutient plus éventuellement le fait que la Russie ait eu à se défendre justement vis-à-vis de l'Ukraine. C'est parce que justement l'OTAN a souhaité et souhaite toujours avoir que l'Ukraine fasse partie de son organisation. Ce qui va permettre à l'OTAN de déployer un peu plus d'armement, plus d'équipements militaires et plus de puissance de feu militaire aux alentours de l'Ukraine. Et ce qui aussi peut éventuellement signifier ce qui signifie un gros risque géopolitique en ce qui concerne la Russie. Et elle a pris l'exemple de Cuba avec l'incident de la baie des ports, où malheureusement, où je fais juste que relater les faits historiques, où justement l'URSS à l'époque voulait installer une base militaire avec de l'équipement au niveau de cette baie-là, justement la baie des cochons. Et les États-Unis ont catégoriquement refusé parce que cela était une menace à leur souveraineté nationale. Donc, du coup, pour résumer ce que le docteur dit, elle estime que bon, l'OTAN serait dans une démarche un peu hypocrite par rapport à l'action russe qui a été menée au cours de ces récemment.
Now, with the fall of communism, Ntsiki, it has left NATO, to answer your question, as the only military pact of the world. And that's why they are trying to absorb any country they can absorb, obviously excluding us, because it's North Atlantic Treaty Organization. They are trying to be bigger and bigger so they can be the bully that they are, which is why Russia is standing up against them with the war in Ukraine. But here's where it is very sad. Even if in Africa we can come and have that defense pact together, if we are spending 20 billion as a continent on defense, that pact is just going to be laughed at by a country of NATO, not even by the whole of NATO. Because the fall of communism destroyed another defense pact that was then, it was called the Warsaw Pact, which was composed of USSR and all the other communist countries. At least at that time, we said the world is a bipolar world. It means there are two forces. So there's no force that can dictate to the world, and there's no one who says no. Now, with the destruction of communism and the fall of the Warsaw Pact, NATO has become law unto itself. That's why they invaded Iraq without UN sanction. They went into Afghanistan, they killed Gaddafi, they killed Saddam Hussein. They do whatever it is they like, which is why, in conclusion, Marco, I love the military pact of in French they say IS, we say AES because we call each alphabet, but it's the Association of Sahel States. They didn't just come together for economics and other things. They came together for joint military protection, which means if you lay hands on Niger, you are laying hands on Mali and Burkina Faso. If you lay hands on Burkina Faso, you are laying hands on Niger and Mali. It is the first ever of the African countries to come together for defense. And they are spending on defense. I mean, we saw Captain Traore in Russia attending the celebration of the end of the Second World War because they are buying equipment from there. And I encourage the IS countries to buy from Russia, buy from China, buy from North Korea if you can, buy from Iran, because the West is not interested in liberating us. So you cannot trust them with your defense entirely. So I'll leave it there.
Ok, pour résumer les propos du docteur, fait cas du fait que ces pactes occidentaux ne sont pas nécessairement dirigés ne sont pas nécessairement faits pour nos propres, pour nos meilleurs intérêts. Et c'est pour ça qu'elle encourage vivement une association, une organisation telle que l'AES aujourd'hui dans le Sahel, qui non seulement en plus d'être un pacte économique, socio-économique, et aussi un pacte militaire, et ce qui est une première en tout cas dans le monde, et vu que de toute l'histoire du monde qu'on a aujourd'hui, nous avons eu que deux forces. Et on a tendance à dire que les forces sont le monde en lui-même est bipolaire. On a le côté occidentaux et on a le côté aussi Russie et autres. Et le fait que l'AES, justement, ait pu se créer dans ce contexte-là, cela est une très bonne chose. Et elle souhaite, en tout cas, que plus d'États africains se joignent à cette initiative-là. Elle souhaite aussi que l'AES diversifie ses partenaires techniques et financiers, justement, par rapport à cette question d'armement. il y a plusieurs autres pays qui sont plus du bloc de l'Est, on va dire, qui sont en mesure de pouvoir fournir de la technologie à l'AES et elle souhaite vivement que l'AES priorise des partenariats là, avec ces pays-là plutôt que des autres pays de l'OTAN.
Khanyisile, I have a question for you actually, because you're the military person in the midst of us. So, based on what we see the Sahel trio do, and also the alliance they're having with Russia and China, which is needed, in as much as I don't agree, but we have to formalize it somehow because we can't defeat ourselves, so we have to do something. So, but those alliances, how do you think it's been? How do you think they're selling themselves to the Russia and all that? Are they using the same kind of Western model, or are they? Is it based on equity? So can you explain the kind of alliance that they're seeking from the Russians? Because I'm a bit curious about how they're going to form the alliances. Because after the colonial, what France has done to them, I'm sure they can't make the same mistake again.
Thank you so much, Oladele, again for that question, a brilliant question. The difference between going on a military alliance, because it's not really a pact. I mean, they are buying from Russia and they're getting expertise. Is that unlike France, as I said, France meddles so much affairs, and they even determine your promotions in your own defense force, who gets promoted. And obviously, if I found myself in that defense force, I would have remained a private or a corporal for life because I've always had a big mouth, even from when I was a child. So, yeah, that's a very fundamental difference. Russia does not meddle. It does not tell them who must be promoted. It doesn't tell them what should your uniform be. It does not tell them what should your national rifle be. Which rifle are you choosing to use? They can choose whatever it is they want. It's a business alliance, but obviously Russia being Russia, not having colonized us as Africans, they have no intention to keep us back. They do want to see us move forward like they did when they were USSR. So no, it is very different, Oladele, I would dare say. Its fundamental aim is to jack up, if I can use that word, or to fast forward, for the Gen Z's language, to fast forward the professionalism of these defense forces. They need to, because they are constantly under threat by the West, because the West has not accepted these coups. They call them coups, we call them tools to a revolution. We call them revolutions, they call them military coups. So I hope I've answered you.
Because I think for me, I'm looking at my really little research, and basically they undermine the whole thing. Because if you look at I use Nigeria as example, probably all colonial countries anyway. The training is Western. Everything they do, to the extent that when they sell them ammunition, they sell them outdated ammunition. This is basically what they're doing. They send things that it's like what they do in terms of the technology transfer to the Africa. Africa, the West probably would be two or three steps ahead, and then they would transfer. They would transfer the technology that's out there to Africa. The same thing they're doing with our military, the military alliances they have. So in a way, basically, they're still using the system to hold us back. And this is basically, and I see the corruption, because just recently, a military general in Nigeria went viral when he was talking about the complicity of the West in the Boko Haram, what's going on in Nigeria, Boko Haram. He called it out. Okay, they kept a lid on it, but he called it out. But the thing is, are they going to go one step further to expose the whole thing? They don't. And this is the frustration. And this is basically what the AES are doing differently. They're calling out the West BS. I would say bullshit, but they're calling it out. Excuse my language, guys, but I have to say it as it is. So yeah, I don't know if you want to speak to that, my sister, man.
There are also some quite interesting questions.
Yeah, I can see that.
Address some of the questions. Yeah, some of them are quite interesting. For example, this one by Cody saying, I wonder what your thoughts are about Wagner and private military corporations extracting wealth from African nations.
My Wi-Fi is not really stable, Ntsiki, so you broke a bit. Repeat the question.
Okay, the question is, I wonder what your thoughts are about Wagner and private military corporation extracting wealth from African nations.
Oh, I mean, that's the reason I know that I would never go to Rwanda, because I have criticized M23's operation in Eastern DRC long ago when it was not even fashionable. I have criticized the involvement of the UPDF, Uganda People's Defense Force, in alliance with Rwanda in the issue of M23 and what's happening in Eastern DRC. There are positive, there are negative ones. I mean, if you remember, there was a plane load that was captured in Zimbabwe of, I forget the name of that company, but former SADF white soldiers who were going to assist with the coup in Equatorial Guinea, something like that, long ago. I think it's about 10 years now. So there are negative ones, there are positive ones. There is the one that, for instance, Central Africa is using in their country to stabilize, which is a Russian one. They are stabilizing against the rebel attack. But overall, as a military person, I don't favor the use of private security. I favor what the AES countries are doing. I favor what Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso are doing. Retrain your defense force, equip it, come together, unite, which is something that is so hard for Africans to do. Come together and beef up your defense force, because defense force ruled by discipline. Private military is ruled by money. They are mercenaries, actually. That's what we used to call them. They kill for money. You can use them for positive, but the essence is they kill for money. They are mercenaries. So equip your defense force, because there's order, there's patriotism, they are married to the country, there are rules, you know them. I mean, they can't do things and disappear into the neighboring country. You will find them, you know where they stay, they've joined legally. So I think I'll answer that question that way, and perhaps maybe allow Marco to interpret if you agree, Ntsiki.
Donc, pour traduire les propos du docteur, à la base, elle n'est pas très pour l'utilisation des sociétés militaires privées. Et elle a pris le cas du Rwanda et de l'Ouganda, justement, avec les différentes factions qu'il y avait lors de leur conflit. Toujours est-il, elle estime que malgré tout, autant il y a du négatif, autant il y a du positif. Et elle apprécie le travail qui a été fait par les Russes, justement, au niveau de la SK. Ils sont là plus pour stabiliser que plutôt s'imposer. Et sinon, dans l'ensemble, elle n'est pas OK. Elle reste toujours pas OK avec l'utilisation des compagnies militaires privées, tout simplement parce que ces compagnies-là sont dirigées par des intérêts qui sont économiques. Voilà. Par contre, elle prend l'exemple de l'AES. Elle estime que l'AES devait avoir encore plus de moyens, plus de pouvoir. Voilà. Elle souhaite que justement la force reste à l'État. Parce qu'au moins, lorsqu'on parle de militaire, c'est étatique, il y a une certaine discipline, il y a un certain patriotisme qui dirige ces personnes-là. Et non pas juste, ce qui n'est pas nécessairement le cas d'une compagnie privée militaire, qui, eux, n'ont que des intérêts pécuniaires. Donc, pour faire plus simple, oui, l'utilisation de ces compagnies militaires privées peut avoir un impact à court terme, mais par la fin, elle souhaiterait que cela se transforme plus par une robustesse du bras armé qu'est aujourd'hui l'AMS.
Okay, I think we lost Marco. Okay, you done, Marco? Okay, this is my thoughts. The reason why we're doing this is basically to highlight what Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso are doing in terms of the military pact. That's why we're here. So I'm saying this: we Africans need to determine where we want to go in terms of our way forward. Must we continue to let the Muzungus, the Oyimbos, determine the way forward for us? This is basically what it's all about. The Sahel trio are saying, you know what, we've had enough. Let's break away from the circle of control. Let's determine our own future. Africans, I know we have a lot of issues in terms of poverty and all those things, which is all our issues are colonial. Everything that's facing Africa today is a colonial problem. In our education is colonial. Our spirituality is colonial. Everything about it is colonial. Our defense force is colonial. Everything is colonial. The challenge we're facing is we do not want to be ourselves. When are we going to break away from the colonial mindset to form an African solution that's going to determine which way Africa goes? This is the biggest challenge we're all facing. A lot of people will be sitting and listening here. Every solution you come up with is basically steeped in the indoctrination that you received from the colonizer. You can't even think as an African anymore. That's our challenge. So we're saying decolonize your minds. Let's think as Africans. Let's think with a collective communal Ubuntu thinking. Maybe some of us need to go back to actually refresh our brains to get back to the indigenous knowledge systems, to retrigger how we think. It's all about our mindset, guys. When you start thinking African, you'll find African solutions that's going to move you forward. We used to be there before our history got perverted. We need to find a way to go back to who we really are. And this is what it's all about. Focus on African solutions for Africans. Nobody from outside is going to help us but ourselves. I'll leave it there for now.
Okay. Donc, pour traduire ce que M. Oladele disait, nous devons redéfinir notre voie, les voies que nous avons choisies. Parce qu'il serait très difficile de continuer à tout le temps être dépendant de la technologie extérieure à l'Afrique. Nous devons, parce que tous nos problèmes de base sont reliés à la colonisation. Ce qui fait que, au fil du temps, nous avons développé un mindset, une façon de penser qui n'est pas nécessairement intrinsèque à nous, qui n'est pas nécessairement vrai, qui n'est pas nécessairement africaine. Et la première des choses est que nous devons être en mesure de pouvoir nous libérer de cette façon de penser-là, être en mesure de pouvoir penser africain, de pouvoir développer des solutions endogènes africaines. Et il a pris l'exemple du concept de Ubuntu. Et il n'y a que par cette façon-là que nous, Africains, nous pouvons aller de l'avant. Donc, par façon résumée, voici les propos de M. Oladele. I'm done.
Thank you so much. So, Mamkan, you were busy discussing about the importance of self-defense. And, I mean, for example, in Burkina Faso, there have been some rebel attacks in the villages. And where would those be coming from? Where would those armies that are attacking the villages be coming from? And who would they be sponsored by?
I think the issue of terrorist attacks is not limited to Burkina Faso. It's common because the Central African Republic faces the same thing. So is Mali, so is Niger. There are problems in the Sahel, I think, because the people are very interconnected, so the borders are porous. That's one. But also, two, France had a free hand for too long here. And that free hand included military defense and security, and they had military bases of their own here. I mean, we know it is France that sponsored the killing of Thomas Sankara by Blaise Compaoré. We know that. So where would they be coming from? They're amongst the people, because that's why we call them terrorist attacks. So they're amongst the people. It's people who do not want progress. It's people, as Oladele was saying, whose minds must still be taken to an oven and baked, and they must be reminded that they are Africans. It's people that must be reminded that they are first Africans before they are a religion, isn't it? And it becomes bad when we talk like this, because it's like we are demonizing a particular religion. But no, we need to remind some people that we are first an African before anything else. And in any way, I'm sure even that religion, they are using it. Because I'm not sure if there is any religion, when you really practice it sincerely, that allows you to go around killing and maiming people. The only time you can do that under a religion is when we are misusing that religion and we are not true to that religion. We are just using it for your own means. So, yeah, Ntsiki, they would be supported by external forces, obviously, if there's been so many attempts, over 20 on Captain Traore's life. You should imagine that they are not very happy with the direction that he is taking. They are not happy with Mali. They are not happy with Niger. But also, this is not new, by the way. Like in Burkina Faso, this problem has been going on from 2015, which is precisely what Captain Traore said, isn't it, when he took over, that we cannot be relying on France to help us quell these terrorist attacks. It's been going on. It's almost like they are watching and enjoying. The same thing Oladele was saying about Boko Haram in Nigeria, that a general has actually spoken out to say, no, 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 the West is complacent. They like this. And the villagers are saying, oh, we see aeroplanes come at night carrying white people. So wherever you see a conflict in Africa, I will tell you for free, as a former guerrilla, as a former admiral, it has external sponsorship. Somebody is supplying those people with arms and ammunition. Somebody is selling them drugs, even, because they don't commit these offenses sober, some of them. So yeah, that's how I would put it, Ntsiki. I don't know if you are answered.
Donc, pour paraphraser les propos du docteur, elle estime que, voilà, toujours, lorsqu'on parle on ne doit pas uniquement cantonner la question terroriste au cas du Burkina Faso. Cela doit s'étendre aussi au cas du Niger, au cas du Mali. On a aussi le Nigeria qui souffre avec Boko Haram. Donc la question est beaucoup plus globale et complexe que juste le Burkina Faso à lui seul. Et lorsqu'on va plus loin, pour reprendre aussi les propos de M. Oladele, elle est tout à fait d'accord sur le fait que nous devons encore reprendre notre façon de repenser des choses, avoir cette pensée critique africaine qui est très importante pour la suite des événements pour le Burkina Faso. Et aussi, elle va sur le principe que la plupart de ceux qui commettent ces attaques-là ne sont pas nécessairement dans une démarche ou une optique religieuse. Et non. Elle estime que ces personnes-là sont plus guidées par des intérêts économiques et pécuniaires qui ne disent pas leur nom. Donc, elle incite encore une dernière fois à ce que l'AES, justement, puisse avoir plus d'engouement, plus de pouvoir, justement, par rapport à ces questions terroristes-là, afin d'indiquer le problème une bonne fois pour toutes.
Okay, Ntsiki, before I jump in, there's a question there. Do you want to post that? Terrorism is backed and sponsored by the West. Where is it? There's a question there. Not there. There's I saw a question earlier. Okay, that one there. Just above that one, another question is how can we deal with? Can you see it? Just above the one you highlighted. Okay, that's the one. Mama Khanyisile, do you want to speak to that one?
Can you read it, please?
Okay. How can we deal with the issue of terrorist attack of our people? I know you mentioned you just touched on it now, but how do we deal with it?
I think I want to take an example from the anti-apartheid struggle. We faced a mighty enemy, the SADF, the South African Defence Force. Our guerrillas were outside. I'm talking about before I skipped and became that guerrilla, when I was still inside as an activist. So our guerrillas were outside, which means we faced an enemy with nothing but dustbin lids and spears and sometimes, but we became smart as the struggle continued. We had what we called street committees. So like in the urban area, each street was taught to defend itself and they would have regular meetings as a street. From the street committees, we had self-defense units. I mean, they were not militarily trained, but they knew, especially reconnaissance, how to notice people who are not from within us, people who are from outside, what they are there, what are they doing. We learned, and then with the interaction with the guerrillas who were outside, we got weapons into the country and people who were trained, they would learn to fight. So I think at the end of the day, which is why they have the military pact in the Sahel, and that's why they are firming up their defense forces. But also the community. It happened even during the Second World War, the war against Hitler. You had what the people called themselves partisans, that is citizen force. So citizens in the end also need to take security and defense into their hands. You cannot just be at the mercy of terrorists or Boko Haram. When they attack, you put your hands in the air and you run away. You need to, in the end, find means and ways and strategies to be able to defend yourselves. So yes, the defense force is there, but the whole country should be mobilized because it's a tactic and it's a very dirty tactic that the West is using against any country that wants to take itself serious. They know that when they destabilize in the provinces, in the rural areas, those people will run and go and crowd the capital. And then you have a humanitarian crisis and then there's no peace. So it's a tactic. So you need to, my opinion, approach it both sides. Yes, the defense force, but also citizen force. What was called partisans during the Second World War, what during apartheid we called self-defense units. Thank you, Oladele.
Okay, Marco, do you want to interpret there before I just put my thoughts?
Can I translate it? Okay. So, donc, pour répondre à la question pour répondre aux commentaires, le docteur estime, a pris le cas de l'exemple de l'apartheid, où à cette époque-là, lorsque le combat a commencé, les ressources étaient peut-être limitées, mais avec le temps, ils ont appris à développer une certaine stratégie, malgré le fait qu'il y ait des ressources limitées. Et elle a donné l'exemple aussi des comités de rue qui, voilà, eux savaient plus ou moins comment, ou à qui ils apprenaient plus ou moins comment défendre les petites communautés, comment gérer certaines situations sécuritaires, en tout cas, face à certaines attaques, puisqu'ils avaient en face de l'armée sud-africaine, mais post-apartheid. Et à la suite de ces petits comités de rue, il y a aussi des unités qui ne sont pas nécessairement combattantes, mais à qui on avait appris justement à comment faire de la reconnaissance, comment justement différencier des infiltrés et ce genre de choses-là. Donc, elle estime que la question sécuritaire est quelque chose qui doit être pris sérieusement, pas nécessairement au niveau étatique, militaire ou de ceux qui sont à des positions stratégiques, mais cela doit être une question globale de tout un pays. Chaque citoyen d'un pays, voilà, surtout ceux qui sont touchés par le terrorisme, chaque citoyen est comptable, il doit s'engager vis-à-vis de la défense de son territoire. Et elle estime aussi que c'est une tactique assez sale que les ennemis utilisent justement parce que en perpétrant ces différentes attaques-là au niveau de ces petits villages et tout, cela va créer un trafic sur les grandes villes et tout, et rendre encore plus difficile les choses. Et voilà, elle estime que si justement les choses sont structurées de façon à ce que non seulement au-delà de l'État et de l'armée, les populations aussi elles-mêmes prennent en considération la question sécuritaire et s'engagent réellement vis-à-vis de ça, les choses seraient beaucoup moins difficiles. I'm done.
Yeah, thank you, Marco. So, you know what? In running this up, these are my thoughts. Africans in the diaspora on the continent, you know where we are. We're bottom of the food chain, right bottom. Even though civilization started with us. So make it make sense. We created civilization, all of a sudden they flip the scripts and we're down the bottom. How did we get there? So what they've done is they've done a dirty on us, that they've basically controlled all the narratives. Everything's been rewritten to glorify the hunter. Everything about you has been rewritten. Everything about you. So the question for me is, how do we flip the script to get back to where we were? Like I said before, you can never, ever use the colonizers' blueprint to free yourself. It's impossible. Because they want to keep you down so they can continue to exploit you. So if you're so Eurocentric in your thinking, how do you think that's going to save you? It's impossible. So what the AES is doing is basically giving us an awakening. They're giving us the awakening, guys, that it is possible we can do this. Ibrahim Traore is 36, 37. Obviously, Chan is slightly older, Goit is slightly older. But he's leading the charge. I think he's leading the charge towards the next generation, appealing to their consciousness to say, you know what, we can awaken. We can do this. But first and foremost, and I say this all the time, the only way forward for Africa to free itself is to decolonize our minds. The thing between your ears needs to change. You can't use their system, whatever it is, to free yourself. Because as long as you keep thinking as an European, because your curriculum, your education is European, you can't free yourself because you're going to be thinking like them. They basically train you to turn against yourself. That's what they've done. Most of us don't understand this. You know, I keep saying this, but we don't get it. You need to be authentically African, and we need to defend ourselves against these. And this is not just about military. It's not just about the military matter. It's about our education. It's about our food. It's about health systems. Everything that we copy is like one of our guests said. My guest on one of my posts. I don't know if you read John Perkins. He wrote the book Confessions of the Economic Hitman. He said they've introduced the death economy to us. And we Africans are embracing it. Africa breeds life. That's what we used to. That's how we used to be. Despite whatever happened, the difference is we bred life. We nurtured everything around us. We never ever we never decimated anything. That's why they had nothing. That's why they had to come to us, because they lacked. So my conclusions today, guys, is in order for us to defend ourselves, the rest of Africa needs to basically embrace Ubuntu. We need to embrace Agbaje, which is my language, the same thing. We need to build communities. We need to decolonize our minds. We need to decolonize our solutions. We need to think African. Marco, I don't know if you can translate all that, but yeah.
Ok, donc pour faire un résumé des propos de Oladele, il revient sur le fait que l'Afrique est le berceau de l'humanité et que nous avons toujours eu une longueur d'avance sur, comment on appelle ça, sur le monde. Et c'est assez, il se pose, pas qu'il se pose la question, mais il met en exergue le fait que voilà, d'une manière ou d'une autre, grâce à la colonisation et certaines actions qui ont pu se passer par le passé, on a réussi à inculquer aux Africains un autre script, un autre scénario, une autre façon de penser qui n'est pas nécessairement la leur. Et il insiste sur le fait que justement nous devons être en mesure de pouvoir nous redécouvrir, pouvoir reconfigurer nos cerveaux, notre façon de penser, afin d'avoir des solutions vraiment endogènes que nous comprenions, qui sont en mesure de pouvoir vraiment être pour nos meilleurs intérêts. Et qu'il est impossible, il est strictement impossible que nous puissions utiliser justement des solutions externes à l'Afrique pour espérer arriver à un résultat positif. Ce n'est pas possible. Il prend aussi le cas du capitaine Ibrahim Traoré qui aujourd'hui qui pour lui en tout cas aujourd'hui est insuffle une nouvelle dynamique vis-à-vis de la nouvelle génération et il rajoute aussi que le cas de l'AES est un exemple qui montre au reste du monde entier qu'il est très possible de pouvoir implémenter, de pouvoir prendre une nouvelle direction qui est endogène à nos solutions, à nous-mêmes africains. Et pour terminer ces propos, il dit que le plus important pour nous serait de, encore une fois, réussir à décoloniser nos esprits, justement, de cette pensée étrangère et pouvoir coloniser nos solutions endogènes.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you so much. As you guys may have picked up today, we've got a translator who is helping us unpack to the Africans in the Sahel region and to the French-speaking Africans. So we welcome all the new viewers. As usual, this is the Moya podcast. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And we are in collaboration with Dr. Khanyi and the Emerging Al-Kabilan, which is also a YouTube channel. So if you can go to them as well and like, share, and subscribe on their page too, we would highly appreciate it. And as we close off, Mam Khanyi, so I mean, it's so hard to be a citizen in this country because our calls fall on deaf ears. So then how do we move towards a narrative that starts speaking to strengthening our defense forces? Because I've seen some of the chubby people in the army and I don't think that they're going to save us when things go down.
So you had to localize this at the end. Honestly, I think I would choose to answer that by saying we should not even be focusing currently at individual defense forces in Africa. As I said, the world has become a unipolar world, meaning it is ruled by one power, and that power is NATO, because the Warsaw Pact, which was countries of communism, fell with communism. So we need an Africa Pact. So let's do what the AES is doing, the IS, they call them in French. Let's bring our defense forces together. I call upon Ghana, I call upon Cote d'Ivoire, I call upon Chad, I call upon the Central African Republic. Guys, join the AES. What is your problem? What's stopping you? And if you have a military base within your country, chuck them out, spit them out, drop them like a hot potato. and join the AES. It is high time. I mean, from Ghana 1957, we have been fighting about the same problems, talking about the same problems. At least we are looking at the AES countries and we are seeing progress and hope. You know, they are turning a new page. So let's join them. Concerning ours, Ntsiki, truly, we need to stop making the Defense Force an employment bureau. That's all that I can say. A Defense Force is a calling. It is not, you don't use a Defense Force as a tool to secure your next elections or as a tool to say we have employed so many young people. It should be professional, truly professional, I think, which is what the AES are doing and embarking on. Otherwise, we are not going to match the NATO countries. If we are still at spending 20 billion as a whole continent, and we are sitting with the problems you just highlighted, Ntsiki, soldiers are obese and they are sick and they have high blood pressure, that's supposed to be the fighting force. That's why Boko Haram does not care. It keeps eating the Nigerian army for supper. It doesn't care. And we mustn't be complacent, South Africans, and think, oh no, it won't happen to us. I mean, if it happened to Nigeria, it can happen to anybody. So I think I would end it there, but also thank Marco also for joining us. We have been talking about the Sahel, but we have not been talking to the Sahel. So I'm glad for the first time we are talking about the Sahel, but also to the Sahel, because there's translation.
Ok, donc pour terminer les propos du docteur, elle souhaiterait justement rappeler que pour le moment, la première force, en tout cas, qui dirige ce monde, qui dirige le monde, justement, la première force armée qui dirige le monde est pour le moment l'OTAN. Et que nous, Africains, nous avons intérêt à pouvoir implémenter un nouveau pacte qui est 100% le nôtre. Et justement, elle appelle les autres pays africains à rejoindre l'initiative de l'AES, car elle estime que c'est ce pacte-là qui pourra être en mesure de vraiment créer la différence et de changer la façon de voir les choses, de pouvoir donner à l'Afrique un rapport de poids important vis-à-vis du reste du monde. Elle parle aussi du fait que s'il y a d'autres pays qui estiment que bon, les bases militaires qu'ils peuvent avoir sur leur territoire sont un blocage pour eux afin de rejoindre l'AES, elle donne la solution simplement, elle demande à ce qu'on chasse ces militaires-là étrangers du pays plutôt, afin que voilà, ils puissent rejoindre l'AES. Et en dernier point aussi, elle avait parlé de l'aspect carrière militaire. La carrière militaire ne doit pas être un sous-emploi ou une raison de pouvoir dire après, ok, d'accord, nous avons permis à tel X nombre de jeunes de pouvoir justement avoir quelque chose à faire. La carrière militaire, c'est quelque chose de plus haut que ça. Et c'est un appel, c'est un sacerdoce, comme on le dit. Et elle insiste sur le fait que voilà, nous ne devons pas utiliser la carrière militaire, tout autre boulot éventuellement qui se rapproche des questions de sécurité, défense et tout, pour justifier les fins politiques. Et pour terminer, elle rajoute que depuis le temps qu'elle fait ce podcast-là, elle a toujours parlé du Sahel. Mais aujourd'hui, elle est vraiment contente de pouvoir être dans le Sahel et échanger des questions sécuritaires justement avec des personnes étant de cette zone sahélienne-là et tout, et mieux saisir les perspectives et les enjeux de ce combat.
Okay, I'm just going to agree with what Brother Lion Champion said there. Okay, like Mama Kaides also said, the AES has developed a blueprint. Like we said in the past, man, the AES are being revolutionary. Africa needs a revolution, and the AES are basically showing us how it's done. So we need an African pact. enough of the gatekeepers, enough of the puppets. Guys, as long as we Africans fit into what we've got right now, because we've got 51 African countries who are puppets to the West. You've only got 3 who stand alone, who are saying, sod the West. So as long as with the 51 countries, we're not moving anywhere fast. So with the blueprints that the AES has, Africa or the rest of the African countries, wherever you are, is a call to action for you. At least they're showing you what to do. Why are we holding back? Do we want to continue to be gatekeepers or puppets to the West forever? Does Africa have to stay down? When are we going to fight that fight? That's my question to everybody, every African. Because it doesn't matter where you are, whatever you are, you could be in Europe, whatever, as a black person. We should not even be thinking of coming to the West for anything. But they've put the system in place that makes you African think that the West is best. That's a mindset problem. My brothers and sisters, we have everything we need to make Africa great. We have everything we need to actually build our military might. You know, look at all these countries. They need uranium, they come to Africa. They need lithium, they come to Africa. They need copper to build their to build the ammunition. Everything they have to build their ammunition, they get it from Africa. So what's wrong with us? Basically, my people, we just need to wake up. We need to wake up. We need to decolonize our minds, decolonize our solutions. Let's do for ourselves. Let's start thinking African. Let's stop being Negropeans, is the word I want to use there. Let's stop being Negropeans. If you hear me again, let's start being Africans. An authentic African that thinks African first, African solution first. African solutions, how are we going to free ourselves from where we are to where we need to be? As an African, I'm sick and tired and sick of the narratives out there. It's about time we flip the scripts, and that's about being ourselves. And I'm going to close on that note. And thank you, everybody, for watching on this day.
Ok, pour résumer ce que M. Oladele dit plus tôt, pour lui, l'AES a ouvert le bal. L'AES a permis à montrer aux yeux du reste des pays africains qu'il était possible d'avoir une nouvelle dynamique dans la façon de penser, que ce soit pour le niveau politique, que ce soit au niveau sécuritaire, de la défense, et même au niveau social. Et qu'il est aujourd'hui plus qu'impératif que en tant qu'Africains, nous puissions aussi suivre, tous ceux qui n'ont pas en tout cas rejoint ce principe d'AES, à défaut de le faire, au moins créer un pacte africain solide qui nous permettra d'avoir encore plus d'impact et plus de pouvoir décisionnel au niveau du monde entier. Il estime aussi qu'en tant qu'Africains, nous devons encore, et il l'a répété à plusieurs reprises justement, qu'en tant qu'Africains, nous devons être en mesure d'avoir tout ce dont nous avons besoin sur le continent africain. Que le fait qu'on ait réussi à faire croire à l'homme africain, à l'Africain, que lorsqu'il a besoin d'avoir quelque chose de bien et tout, il est obligé d'aller à l'extérieur, en dehors du continent. Cette façon de penser, cette façon de voir les choses-là doit nécessairement changer. Nous n'avons pas besoin d'aller ailleurs pour justement pour pouvoir avoir quelque chose de meilleur. Non. Il estime que nous avons toutes les ressources nécessaires au niveau du continent africain, justement, pour pouvoir nous autosuffire, développer nos propres solutions et être encore beaucoup plus indépendants vis-à-vis du monde. Voilà, c'était le petit résumé de l'intervention de M. Oladele.
Great. And on that note, we would like to thank Marco for being with us today. We hope that you will definitely be joining us for the rest of the sessions, because you play such an important role in being the thread between the English and the French, So we really
Yes.
appreciate you being here, right? So thank you so much, Marco. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Oladele, thank you as usual. Stellar contributions. And reminder to everybody to go to the Emerging Al Kabilan YouTube channel and grow that channel. And then, as usual, our mother, Dr. Mam Khanyisile Litchfield Tshabalala, thank you so much always for your guidance and your leadership. These sessions would not be without you. So thank you to everybody who was on the panel. Thank you to everybody who joined in, whether on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook. But please come and join the YouTube channels rather, so that you can be exposed to more of this Pan-Africanist content. We'll see you guys again next week. Thank you, guys.
Just one last